Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a journey through a really foundational text, Ayatollah Nasser Makaram Shirazi's 50 Lessons on Belief. We're going to walk through its core ideas and use the text's own logic to build an entire framework of understanding, all the way from the search for a creator to, well, the final destination. All right, let's get into it.
Everything, and I mean everything, kicks off with these three huge questions from the very first lesson. Now, the text says these aren't just for late-night dorm room chats. They are essential questions that really drive our spirit. Think about it. If someone wakes up in a hospital with amnesia, their first questions are always, where am I? How did I get here? Well, the text basically argues our existence is the same. We have this deep, built-in need to understand our origin, our purpose, and where we're headed.
And this is the real starting point. It's not about being told what to believe. According to these lessons, the search begins with something inside every single one of us. This powerful, nagging curiosity. A thirsty spirit, as they call it, that just has to know. Did this universe, with all its incredible complexity, just happen? Or is it the work of some powerful, intelligent creator? It's that drive for an answer that gets the whole quest started. So, with that curious spirit as our guide, our first major stop is the search for God itself. The text suggests there are two main ways to go about this, two paths for following the signs. One that has you looking inward, and another that has you looking outward.
So the text breaks this search into two different methods. The inward way is all about listening to what's called our fitrah, which is this idea that we have a kind of innate spiritual compass inside us. The outer way, on the other hand, is about being a good observer. Studying the world around us and seeing the fingerprints of an intelligent designer in all of its order and complexity.
Let's dig into that outer way for a second. The core argument here is just pure logic. I mean, if you walk into a room and see a beautiful painting on an easel, you know there was a painter, right? If you read a brilliant article, you know there was a writer. Well, this same logic is applied to the universe. The very existence of precise, unchanging laws, from how planets orbit to how a single cell works, it all points to an intelligent source that has both knowledge and power.
And to make this really concrete, Lesson 8 brings up a fantastic example. It asks a pretty simple question about the natural world. How in the world does a bat fly at top speed in total darkness, twisting through narrow caves without ever crashing? The text uses this little marvel of nature as a perfect case study for intricate design.
Now, before we get the answer, let's just quickly remember a human invention we're all familiar with, radar, right? We use it to guide ships and planes. We send out waves, they bounce off stuff, and we analyze the echoes. It's a pretty clever system that lets us see things our eyes can't.
And boom, here's the connection. The lesson explains that the bat has its own incredibly advanced biological radar system. It sends out these ultrasonic waves, and its super-sensitive ears act as the receivers, building a perfect, real-time map of its surroundings. The lesson puts it so well. The bat is literally seeing with its ears. And this unbelievably complex system is presented as a powerful sign of a knowledgeable creator.
So, this leads us to the next logical step. If the search points to a creator, the next big question has to be, how does this creator communicate with us? The 50 Lessons introduces the system of prophets as the answer. This is the method by which humanity gets the map for its journey.
So why is this map so essential? Well, the text lays out a few key reasons. First, our own knowledge is just limited. We can't see the whole path ahead. Second, our own instincts and desires can easily hijack our intellect if we don't have some kind of higher moral guide. And third, creating perfect, truly unbiased laws for a whole society, well, that's considered way beyond what any human, with all our limitations, could ever do. So prophets are presented as these vital messengers who deliver that divine guidance.
Okay, but for any of this guidance to actually work, the messenger has to be 100% trustworthy. And this brings us to a really key concept, immaculateness or infallibility. The argument is simple. If a prophet could sin or make mistakes, people would naturally start to doubt the message. The whole system of guidance would just fall apart. So being completely free from sin and error is presented as an absolute must-have for any divine messenger.
The journey keeps going. So the prophets deliver the message, but how is that message protected over time from being changed or misunderstood? This is where the lessons bring in the concept of the Imamate, a system of divinely chosen leaders who are meant to be the guardians of that original message.
This quote from the Quran about Abraham is used to really frame this whole idea of Imamate. You see, after Abraham passes these incredible trials, God grants him the station of leader to the nations. But, and this is the important part, the promise comes with a catch. It's not for evildoers. This sets up leadership, or Imamate, as a really high, divinely given role that absolutely requires purity.
So here's the crucial point. If the Imam needs to have those same qualities of perfect knowledge and infallibility to protect the message, well, how are they chosen? The text's logic is that only God can truly know what's inside a person's heart and mind. Therefore, just like a prophet is chosen by God, the Imam who follows them must also be divinely selected. It can't be left up to a popular vote among us fallible humans.
Now, a system of divine guidance like this naturally brings up a huge classic question. If God is all-powerful and provides a map, what's our role in all of this? Are we actually free? This next part tackles that really complex relationship between God's justice and our own free will.
The lessons kind of set up this debate by showing us the two extreme viewpoints. On one end of the spectrum, you've got fatalism. That's the idea that we have no choice at all, that we're basically just puppets playing out a pre-written script. On the complete opposite end, you have something called conferring, which is the idea that God created us and then just walked away, leaving us totally independent and on our own.
The solution offered in the text is what's called a middle way, and it's explained with a really great analogy of an electric train. Okay, so think of it like this. We are the driver of the train. We are totally free to choose the speed, to go forward, to go backward. That's our free will. But the actual power making the train move, that comes from an outside source, the electricity flowing through the cable overhead. That represents God's power. So we're free to drive, but the very ability to drive is constantly being given to us by God, who's always the ultimate source of power.
And now we've reached our final destination. We're finally ready to tackle that third fundamental question from the very beginning. Where are we going? This section explores the idea of the afterlife, just as it's laid out in the 50 lessons.
The text uses a really powerful analogy to make the case for an afterlife. Just think about a fetus in the womb. Its whole 9-month existence, stuck in the dark, floating around, it would seem totally pointless if it wasn't all just preparation for life out here, in this much bigger, wider world. In the same way, the lessons argue that our life here, with all its challenges and learning, would be pretty absurd if it wasn't also a preparatory stage for an even greater eternal existence.
So how does justice actually work in that next world? The text explains it with a fascinating concept called the embodiment of deeds. The core idea is that our actions aren't just written down in a book somewhere. They literally become our reality. They take on a physical form and are the direct source of whatever we experience in the hereafter.
Here are a few examples of how this is supposed to work. An act of injustice in this world might literally show up as a suffocating darkness all around you in the next. Taking what belongs to an orphan could become a fire burning inside you. But on the flip side, things like faith and good actions become a brilliant light that guides your way. See, it's not some external reward or punishment, it's the very substance of your own actions made real.
And that brings our entire journey to a close, leaving us with this one last provocative question that the text wants us to think about. It's a question that turns this whole system of belief right back onto us, the individual. Because in this framework, our destiny isn't something that just happens to us, it's something we are actively building, piece by piece, with every action. So the final question isn't what will be done to us, but rather what will our own deeds become?